Hey guys, Tina here and welcome to my July wrap-up. So it's the last day of our vacation, and for the first time we don't have sunny, clear skies, and it's still okay, but it's not what you want when you are vacationing at the seaside. Anyways, I see I have company here, so I think this is going to be a great video. But yeah, I'm here to wrap up what I read in July. I actually had a pretty good, really good actually reading month, mostly due to readathons that encouraged me to read more than I usually would. Those were obviously biennial bibliothon and the reading rush. So yeah, but there are a few books that I read before those started, and the first one is that I finished in July, although I read it mostly in June. That was Hank Green's The Absolutely Remarkable Thing. Wow, I forgot the title. But anyways, this is sort of a sci-fi-ish neo-adult book, I would say, that is the story of this girl who studied design, and she's sort of struggling now to figure out what her life is supposed to be now that she's done. She has a lot of debt and all that. So, one day she is walking home and she comes across this huge figure, and she thinks that it's sort of an artistic piece, and she calls her friend, and they a video around it and post that video, and they become pretty famous through that because she's the first one that actually sort of is in contact with these things. And throughout the story then we see how the story develops around these beings that came to Earth or suddenly appeared on Earth, and we also follow her, how she struggles with social media, sudden popularity, this eagerness for success, the ambition and all that. So it's really, I think it's an interesting book. I liked it. I didn't like the main character, but I do appreciate that what Hank Green tried to do with his book, basically showing us how we are with social media, our obsession with it and all that, and how it impacts us. So yeah, I really liked it. But yeah, it was not my favorite read, but it's definitely one of my favorite reads of July. So the next book that I read is Mary Robinette Cole's The Calculating Stars, which is a sci-fi book, and it's sort of an alternate history piece. And in the story we follow a couple that is they're both scientists, and in the early 50s a meteor strikes the eastern coast of the US, and after that we see how they come to an understanding that what the long-term consequences of that hits are going to be. Basically we're talking about global warming and Earth becoming uninhabitable, so they're really struggling hard to find other means where people could live. So they want to conquer space, they want to get people in space and create a lunar colony, and after that go to Mars and make it habitable, basically, so that once Earth is not for us anymore, then we can go there. And I really enjoyed this book. Yeah, it's slow paced, and there's not a lot of action, but I really enjoyed it. I love the character of Elma. She's sort of a feminist. I mean, she's struggling because there's a lot of things that are, she's really smart and all that, and she can do a lot of stuff that men can, but because she's a woman, she's not allowed to even do that. And there's a lot of racism still in that time. And yeah, wait, I have to have my friend in the frame. So I really enjoyed it. And after that, I bought the sequel as well, which I'm going to talk in my August wrap-up, because I already read it and enjoyed it just as much. So I cannot wait, for the next book in the series to come out, which is apparently not until next year. So I would thoroughly recommend this one anyways. Then I read, for biennial bibliothon, I read 2 books. I think I only mentioned 2, yes. The first one was Bridget Collins's The Binding, which is a book that has intrigued me ever since I heard about it. It's this sort of fantastical book, I guess, or I don't know, historical book with fantastical elements. Basically we follow this boy who has been sick, and then one day this letter comes, and it's from a book binder, and they want him to become their apprentice, which is not something that anybody really strives to be, because book binding is viewed as bad, books are viewed as bad, and reading is really not encouraged. So the thing with books in this book is that people actually store they go to a book binder and tell their memories, and the binder then stores them in a book, and then you forget them basically. And you can, yeah, I mean, it's dangerous to do it a lot of times and things like that, and it's just not, and it's dangerous also for other people to read them and things like that. So anyways, that's how the story begins. I didn't really care for the first part. It's again, it's a slow book. I didn't care for the first part that much, but after that I really got intrigued and I really enjoyed it. All in all, it's a romance book, you know, and if the age of the characters were slightly lower, it would be a young adult book. It's an adult book, but yeah, the characters are like, I think in their early 20s or something like that. So yeah, I really enjoyed the writing. It was good. The book itself is beautiful. So yeah, I do recommend it. It was, all in all, it was a lot of fun to read anyways. The second book that I managed to finish for the biennial bibliothon is Margaret Rogerson's Sorcery of Thorns, which, never mind, some people are just, oh, family, you know how it is. Wait, I'm looking in the wrong side of the phone. Anyways, the second book that I finished for biennial bibliothon is the Sorcery of Thorns, and all in all, I liked it. I was not as in love with it as people are. Basically, we follow a character that lives in a library. She's an orphan, and she was basically adopted by this library, and she works there. And the books in this library are basically grimoires, and you have to take care of them because they can turn into monsters, basically. So, and also sorcery is viewed as bad, so she's really scared, I guess, and, well, I guess just aware that, you know, she doesn't want to deal with sorcerers, basically, but that's exactly what she has to do because she gets entangled in some troubles and she's in danger, and sorcery is what can help her, basically. So, all in all, I did enjoy it. I was not as thrilled, but then again, that might be just the fact that I listened to it and not read it, so it's always a bit problematic for me, or it can be. So, I mean, people love it, so, you know, don't take my word for it anyways, but I read the reviews as well anyways. But yeah, the next book was Michael J. Sullivan's The Age of Legend. I decided to read this one. Wow, sun is back. It's cool. I love it. I decided that I do not want to start another book for biennial bibliothon, so I just started reading Age of Legend, which came out, I think, in early July, and I couldn't wait to read it because I love Michael J. Sullivan's book. This is the fourth book in the Final Empire series, and we follow a bunch of characters. Some of them are humans, some of them are fae. There's also dwarves and a whole slew of different creatures and species and all that. And all in all, I really love these books. I love the series. There's a lot of great female characters. There's a war going on between humans and Fae, and it's really interesting. Michael G. Sullivan is not afraid to take out his characters, the main ones as well. So, you know, you never know who's going to die. And this one ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. So, you know, I cannot wait for the next book to come out, which is, I think, next year, or if you... There's going to be a Kickstarter, so maybe I will participate in that and then maybe get in October. But, you know, he's really good with his release dates, so that's fine. All in all, I really like it. It's, you know, it's adventurous. It's a fantasy series that I recommend for people who are trying to get into fantasy. It's easy to read. You know, it doesn't have a steep learning curve. There's not that whole lot of magic in anything, you know. It's just a really enjoyable read, and as I said, I cannot wait for the sequel to come out. And then the reading rush started, and I had great plans, obviously, because I always do for readathons. But, you know, I try to be ambitious, but obviously I know that that's not going to happen. I'm not going to manage to conquer all the books that I put on my TBR, but still, I did want to finish a series, and that is the Rebel of the Sand series. I had read the first book years back, and I wanted to finish books 2 and 3, which is exactly what I did. So I read Traitor to the Throne and Hero at the Fall. And they were all enjoyable, but again, I listened to them, so I wasn't that immersed into them. And it's been a while since I read the first book, but I think they're more or less typical YA fantasy books, in which we have a main female character who, you know, she has her destiny all sort of sorted out for her. Her future people want for her some stuff that she doesn't want, so she sort of rebels and runs away and gets entangled into some other stuff. And there's a boy, obviously, and basically it's about a rebellion against the sultan, and one of his sons is trying to sort of overthrow his father, and along the way they have to get through a lot of challenges, and people die, people get captured, and things like that. So yeah, all in all, it's a typical YA fantasy series that I would have loved years back, but now not so much. But obviously, if you're in the right age range, and if you love young adult fantasy, do give it a try. It's I think it's like Middle Eastern mythology again. It's some parts reminded me of the City of Brass, but just the mythological parts, not the actual story or anything like that. So yeah, all in all, it was okay, but not my favorite none of those two were my favorite reads out of all of them that I read in July anyways. Then I also read Martha Wells's Artificial Condition, which is book 2 in the Murderbot series, which is a series of novellas about a murderbot who basically is created to protect humans or kill them, depending on what people are hard to do. And in book 1, which is All Systems Red, we follow it as it's trying to protect this science team that is doing some scientific work on some planet or something like that. And it's an interesting character. It's not really interested in doing its job. It much prefers watching TV and things like that. So it's really complex for a machine in a way. So I really enjoyed it. And in this sequel, the Murderbot is trying to figure out what has really happened in its past, because it's supposed to have done some things that were bad, and I guess, now it's the time to figure out whether or not that it's true or not. So I really enjoyed it. I definitely want to continue on with the series. I think there are like 4 novellas out so far, and there's supposed to be a full-length novel at some point coming out as well. So yeah. Then I also read, for the reading rush, I read also Jane Austen's Lady Susan, which is... Oh, my friend is moving. Yes, you're in the frame. That's good. Which is a short novelette about Lady Susan, who is just an annoying, conniving. She's, sort of looking for wealth, neglecting her daughter, and just annoying everyone around her. But she's sort of hard to get rid of. And it was a fun, short read. I do want to watch the movie. I think Kate Beckinsale, or I think it's in it, so I want to watch it at some point. All in all, it was enjoyable, but I do want to actually focus now, whenever that happens, on full-length novels by Jane Austen. So yeah. And the last book, well, no, actually those are all the books, because I already mentioned Here Write the Fall by Elvin Hamilton. So those are actually all the books that I've read in July. I started also Mary Robert Cowell's the sequel to The Calculating Star, which is The Faded Sky, but as I said, I finished it yesterday, so that was already August, and I will talk about it more in my next wrap up. I'm really happy with how this month went. I read a lot of books, and most of them I really enjoyed, so that's good. Some of them are average, but they weren't bad, just average. So yeah. Anyways, this is from the seaside. Tina reporting, I guess. And thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next one. Bye.